Hey there, heroes and heroines, and welcome to the realm of Beast Foundry. Now, let's grab some dice and get ready for epic adventure. And, normally we do this thing where Italo rolls the intro. I don't even know what that is at the time of this recording. We have to rework our intro. As you saw in our previous video, we're revamping things. I don't even know what it is at this point, but you know what? We need to get moving on recordings. So here we go. Italo, roll whatever magic it is that you worked out. So today we are going to be talking about GMing. I know that it is a very intimidating thing to do. You have a table of people or you're online and everyone is looking for you to entertain them. And you're thinking, what if I don't know the rules? How do I keep things flowing? There are so many components to it. And the best advice I can give you is, like most things, you just have to start doing it. You will get better with time. But there are certainly plenty of tips that I can give you. A couple of things that starting right out the door that a lot of GMs really kind of get into this pitfall of is they get too invested. You don't let the dice help tell the story. Like, oh, I want this guy to escape. He can't die here. I need to figure out a way to make this happen. Or, ooh, I didn't plan for that. I need to make something, plot armor. Oh, he gets away. I would strongly encourage you to avoid these things. They're like in movies and anime and all kinds of things when who you think the boss is dies, there's someone bigger and badder around the corner. It's okay. Let the dice help tell the story. And you may realize like, oh, well, what I thought was going to happen wasn't going to happen. So it can drive your campaign in such interesting directions. I have had wonderful campaigns that they became so great because these things happened out of the blue. No one expected it. The heroes were so excited that they were able to drop the enemy, the big bad, and were like, oh my god, we got him. And I was really left like, oh, okay, well, we have some follow-up and some cleanup and everyone gets treasure and they go to town and you do all that filler. But between that session and the next, came up with some really fun stuff to really escalate the story. So there are a lot of things that you can do that you don't have to get so invested because this is a collaborative storytelling game. It is not just your story. It is your player's story as well. And you players out there, your GM needs to have fun too. Some things I have seen, players can sometimes be a little obnoxious with their character's abilities and not letting other people do stuff. I mean, it is a collaborative game. You need to make sure that everyone at the table has a chance to enjoy themselves. Now, everyone's play style is different. Not everyone is going to want to play the same way. That's fine. I have played with so many games that, someone's new and they just kind of want to hang out. They want to be part of the experience. And it takes them a while to find their space, and totally fine. You don't have to force everyone to play the same way, but give them the opportunity. Don't just, the characters and players that know everything, encourage the other people, but also remember your GM is a player too. And if they're not having fun, that is the worst thing that can happen to a campaign. You need to pay close attention to see that your GM is enjoying themselves, because if they are not, your campaign isn't going to last that long because they don't want to do it and they're going to look for excuses to not do it. So you need to look at ways to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now you might be asking, how do I do that? Engage with the NPCs, have fun, look at the different things, do wacky, crazy stuff. One thing you will find is that when you're playing the game, you might, oh my gosh, these enemies, they are so tough. If you're always trying wacky stuff, your GM's not going to put that tough of enemies because they're familiar with your play style and they're kind of going to be like, this thing's going to trash them. I'm going to scale this down a tiny bit and give them a chance to do their fun things. And for you GMs out there, Pathfinder 2 is a great system that, in a sense, I've done extreme fights that have been, 8 enemies. They were a bunch of lower level and then something a little below the characters, and then one thing that was at the character's level. The party barely survived, and they ended up having to run away. But at the end of the day, everyone had a good time in a sense that people were hitting, spells were going off. Of course, there are times you want to have that big, bad enemy that is at the end, and that's fun, and the characters need to actually figure out how to work together to maximize everyone's abilities, but you want to spread all of that stuff out. You don't want to focus one way or the other. You want to keep things moving. Speaking of keeping things moving, if you guys enjoy this content, please subscribe, ring the bell. There is a link to our Discord below. We are going to be having a lot of things coming up in the near future. Here in the next few months, we are going to be running a bunch of promo games, custom adventure that I have put together, complete with a player's guide, things like that. This is just stuff I am going to be running for people. So if you guys are interested in that, please join the Discord. First signups are going to be in there, and then I'll be branching out to other systems. But back to where we were. Another thing as a GM that you don't need to get super wrapped up in, oh, I really wanted that attack to land and it didn't. And oh my gosh, this enemy's they all just whiffed it and it sucks. Your players were having a ton of fun with that. And I am guilty of it too. Some of my players can tell you there are sessions where I am just furious because no hit is landing. And it's something that even I work on. And I've been doing this a long time, so don't feel bad. But remember, as the GM, you have an infinite amount of chances. You will be throwing enemies at your players every time you play practically. So try not to sweat it, laugh it off, have fun. And you know what? Maybe your monsters want to try some goofy stuff too. If things aren't going well, experiment. What do you got to lose? Try different tactics and things that you wouldn't normally do just to see what happens. And it really, even though your players might not know what you're doing, they're like, why is he doing this thing? It's freaking me out. So doing weird and different things kind of, even though your rolls aren't landing, it does help keep the geese. Oh, why are there geese outside Natalo? So you want to try these weird and crazy things so that even though your rolls aren't landing, your players are still going to be all, what's going on? What's he doing? And it does add to the tension, and you don't necessarily have to actually land everything to really get your characters, the players, to be like, yeah. So, that's something you want to strive for. So you keep things moving, keep your players engaged, let them have fun. But really, you really do want to focus on this, story that you want to tell, but you can't have it set in stone. And that's the hardest thing to learn, because you never know what's going to happen. Now, many Pathfinder players play APs. They are stories that are already published by Paizo, who make Pathfinder, so it is a very linear story. Obviously, these things can be very, very specific on how things occur. They're a really good way to get your feet wet and kind of learn some of the ins and outs. Personally, I am not a huge fan of APs because it's not my playstyle. Not that I believe there is something wrong with them. I just enjoy my own world, creating my own things, having my own greater stories at play, and I really love more sandboxy adventures that the players can go wherever they want. So this very specific AP adventure is often geared towards pointing you in a very set direction. Now, I will say there are plenty of them that do give you lots of options to go, here, there. So please don't think they're completely railroading you, but they're a very different style. And I've noticed the Pathfinder community is really, they're not against homebrew or, your homemade adventures, but I just think because maybe the rules are a little intensive that people really start off on adventure paths because they're intimidated and they just kind of gravitate towards them. Nothing wrong with that at all. So as I said, the best way for you to get involved in this and really just start learning is to do it. And it's okay to start small. You can grab some players and say, hey, I want to practice this. I don't know how far I want to go, but, would you guys, let's just do a one shot and we'll make some first level characters or second level characters. And, start going through it and just start going through the paces. You're never going to get anywhere if you don't actually start doing it. So that's my advice for you guys right now. And as always, game well, my friends.